This is the 8-9 combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones, and this is the Weekend Post-Mortem. Hello, mate. How you doing?
How's it, man? I'm checking to see if my microphone works. This has been a hell of a weekend of rugby. I cannot actually remember a weekend that I enjoyed more in a while. It's almost like since Six Nations. I thought everyone kind of upped their game. Obviously the tension was getting higher. Even in Super Rugby, which is not as close to the end, there was this feeling of like, who's in the upper tier and who's being left behind. And we this is just a teaser. We're going to talk more about this later in the week. But it made me think about who's just average now. And, if you're a team, you just want to avoid that dreaded label, but it might fit you.
Well, and in certain comps, being bang on average is actually not a bad thing. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that midweek when we get into that. We're really looking forward to the Weekend Post-Mortem. It has been a hell of a weekend of rugby. We're going to pull out all the big results, all the surprise results from games that grabbed us around the leagues, around the rugby world. It was a weekend that had it all. There was all sorts of things going on in every competition as well, and we'll touch on all of that in a moment. It was a funny weekend. There was some funny results that we're going to go through here in a minute.
Yeah, there were. People are going to obviously point almost directly to the Leinster setup. But so Leinster had already secured exactly what they wanted in the IRC.
Yeah.
And what they needed to do was not play their guys into the ground, bring them in the final round, even though the final round also won't change the fact that the home playoff will be in Dublin. You want to get your guys back in to do your reps, your sets, your attack pods, and not go in undercooked. But there was no reason for Leinster to play anyone in their real game 23 much this weekend. No. So I would put a bit of an asterisk by it, even though it's super fun.
Sure.
And Wales needs that, and it's cool. But I wouldn't overrate
Scarlets. It's done. It's done. Scarlets a massive favor.
It's a win-win. Yeah. Leinster will almost go, okay, fine, that's great. We're glad to be the foil for your little charade here, but it's not real.
Yeah. No, that's all valid and fair. I think that'll make sense. We'll get into the Weekend Post-Mortem in a moment, but first, tell the nice people why we would really love them to subscribe to the 8-9 combo.
Because it would make us happy, and happiness is underrated. There's far too much attention being placed on self-worth and self-esteem. I just want to be happy. I don't care if I've got self-esteem or not. And so we are attaching our happiness to the number, which may or may not be right or good. And we believe you love us when you subscribe. And when you don't subscribe, we don't think you really love us that much. If you loved us, you would subscribe. Tagline.
Sure. Let's say that. If you are watching us on the 8-9 YouTube channel, then just hit that little red button down there in the bottom corner. And if you're listening to us via Spotify, via Apple Pods, any of the podcast platforms, hit like, hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever it needs to be on your platform of choice, and you'll make sure that you don't miss an episode anywhere. Let's get into it, mate. We'll go straight into Super Rugby round 11. And it was an interesting little round. It was the Chiefs thumped an injury hit Western Force 56-22 in Mount Maunganui to stay top. The Queensland Reds pushed the Blues closer to what I've dubbed final nail territory, winning up there by 14 in Queensland. Moana Pacifica's final ambitions are still certainly very much alive with that 34-15 win over the Drua. The Crusaders had an injury setback, lost one of their young fly halves, but won the South Island Derby pretty comfortably over the Highlanders. And then the Hurricanes lodged their first win in Canberra since 2017, beating the Brumbies 35-29. So, where do you want to start? My biggest disappointment about the Hurricanes is they upset my tipping for the weekend. I was on track at that point, but it was just a really enjoyable weekend of rugby.
No, it was good. I saw the Super Rugby weekend as a bit of a level setting. There's little globules here, almost little pods of teams. And the top pod, I think, is really clear now with what the Reds did. Brumbies, notwithstanding, the drop is still right there. So there's 4 teams that are clearly not just gonna make the playoffs, but have a chance. I don't think anyone besides those 4 has any remote possibility. And so therefore, getting the 6, fine, but for me, it's a waste of time. I'm just talking about people who could win the league.
Yeah. Even in that top 4, the Chiefs and Crusaders are 8 points clear of the Brumbies in third. So they've both got 8 wins. The Brumbies and Reds have both got 6 wins. So even in the top 4, there's demarcation.
Yeah, and I'm interested in points, but not, obviously, you know this by now, not as much as most people, not as you. I'm more interested in like what's going to really happen. Like in the end, those 2 teams are definitely set apart. But the Reds, to be fair, Reds and Brumbies also right in that kind of group. And so that's the group. To me, the only drama left in Super Rugby is, besides, you know, who wins the finals and all that, is so of the Canes and the Waratahs and maybe Moana and Force, of those, who can escape the sort of like, you're just an average team. I think Hurricanes and won that argument with the Blues. The Blues should have done better by now. They're just not doing enough better. And the Hurricanes kind of said to me this weekend, we're not that bad. We don't take us for granted.
They were really good. Kenny Naholo, who's pictured there in that shot. He was
tackle that.
He was enormous. Yeah, good luck tackling that. And Andy Muirhead and the bodies behind in that photo are Tom Wright and Corey Toole. So he's just shredded the back 3 completely. So
a picture of despair. Yeah.
Look, they were really good. What's interesting, and I like your point there. What's interesting about those couple of teams? So there's essentially 4 teams: the Canes, the Force, the Waratahs, Moana, are all fighting out for 5th and 6th. They're on 22, 22, 21, 20 points. All of them have 4 wins. The Waratahs actually have 5, but the Waratahs also have the worst for and against of that group of 4. So that'll be interesting. Just a quick one before we get into that a little bit further, and I want to talk about the Crusaders. That photo of Kenny Naholo there, I just want to show you something else that I noticed completely by accident when I found this image. That is this here. That circled person in that photo is me.
I recognize the tracksuit top. Yeah.
randomly found an image of Kenny Naholo and thought, oh yeah, that's that try in the corner.
I think that's your go-to tracksuit top for the sideline. I can't actually make out. Yeah, that could actually be an ABC rain jacket that I had on by that point. So yes. So of those teams that are sort of we'll call them the bubble teams. Some of them, they're just making up the numbers if they squeeze into the final 6. There are others that have enough firepower they could turn someone away. I don't see the Waratahs having the away turnover power. That's my problem with them. Is they're just a fortress team. I have the same problem with Moana. And so I just kind of wonder about Hurricanes' ability to get hot. Because I think if you can get in and then just start rolling 6s, the dice could favor you.
Yeah. So where it gets interesting is the Force play the Blues this weekend. The Waratahs go down to Canberra to play the Brumbies. Moana play the Highlanders. They could definitely win that. The Hurricanes play the Chiefs.
Great.
So
matchups.
all four of those teams actually have hard games this weekend. So that's going to be interesting. The Crusaders, I mentioned an injury setback, lost Taha Kemena, the young number 10. Rivers Rehani come off the bench for his first game in a little while and played pretty well. James O'Connor will come back, obviously, but losing he's been their starting 10 all year. He's the guy they've backed. So all of a sudden now they've just got to rejig. They've just got to relearn, and I just wonder whether the Crusaders might wobble for a week or two now.
James O'Connor has always been a lucky boy. His whole career, since he was 20 years old, the stars have always aligned that he would step up into big moments. And so I just think this is another one of them.
Could well be.
You would back him in his ability to size up the moment, not be afraid.
Yeah,
I always said he's been the most courageous Australian player in this particular era, because I just think he has a belief in himself and overcomes difficulties. So I think it fits the Crusader.
He has all of that now. Yes, he has all of that now, and he's the first to admit that he did not have that for probably the first 10 or 12 years of his career.
That's why I like him, is because he always he never I think he always had to work through inner demons. And but still, that being said, in 2011, when a kick needed to be made to beat the Box in a quarterfinal, I mean, he made it.
and it's
true. He's that kind of guy. I think he's not afraid.
One of the Bledisloe game in Hong Kong.
I'm not afraid to win. Yeah.
That's fair. It's fair. It was round 16 of the ERC, and get prepared for just a mountain of numbers here. Had to get a little bit creative with the slide there for all the results. The Bulls are now 1 point behind Glasgow after that 26-19 win at the Scotstoun. Cardiff stunned Munster 26-21 at the Arms Park. Sasha Feinberg Mgomezulu put 50 on Benetton as the Stormers won 56-5 at Newlands, and Scarlets surged into the top 8 with that magnificent 35-22 win over Leinster Academy. Is that how we're going to refer to them now?
Yeah. So the screen that has all the scores on it, usually you would look at our 8-9 and go, wow, that's definitely a logo. But 89 kind of fits into that score line. You go, hey, who scored 89?
A little bit. Yeah, it kind of does. There's some high scores there.
All the South African teams won. Bulls handily had their revenge game in Glasgow. Glasgow's a tough place to play. It's a 4G pitch. They just keep on coming. Franco Smith has them coached up to sort of be an 85-minute team. So you knew there was always going to be a backlash at the end, and would the Bulls have enough to hang on? But they did what you have to do against a quick starting team, which is throttle the game. Just refuse to let them get any kind of stride. Get a scoreboard pressure with extremely interesting and creative kicks. Good start, funnel the attack into the Monsters, and then hang on. Stormers kind of did the opposite, which is let's turn Benetton, which is basically the Italian national team, let's turn them into the goof troop we've been all season. And like kind of like you lure someone into deep waters, because Sasha was just doing tricks. So the great sequence,
flick passes and everything.
That he gets taken out in the air. He lands with his bum just perfectly on the back of the Italian who took him out in the air. The call's happening while Sasha is landing, and Matrix-like, he just taps and goes, using the guy's back as his seat. Referee cannot call it back like the fucking referees always do on quick taps in those moments, because he was on the spot where he had been fouled. So it's impossible to dispute it. He takes off, he runs amok, and then does just a casual as you like out the back, perfect spiral with a dummy first, and sets Dan the man free. There was that kind of stuff going on. And I think Benetton got caught up into it, and Brex and Manancello and all those guys started thinking, what can we do? And it just fell apart. It looked terrible for Benetton, who has been playing really well all season. And they dropped.
And they had a good win the week before.
So dropping to 8th, that sets everyone up for this next week, where there's 4 games on Friday, and every single game on this coming Friday is going to be incredibly crucial to who makes it in, because we're only 2 rounds from the end. Like every candidate for those final places is fighting each other on a Friday night. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, right. Is there 4 games on Friday?
Yeah.
My draw must be doing something funny. I'm not
Infinite
seeing
wisdom.
Anyway, doesn't matter. So the 2 Friday night games were really interesting and shared a few characteristics. So Bulls, Glasgow, Cardiff, Munster I'm talking about here. The Arms Park is also a 4G pitch. I think it looks too perfect for a wet Friday night in Cardiff. I said to you, having watched them back Saturday morning my time, that the Bulls and Munster were both fully in control of those games until suddenly they weren't. The difference being that the Bulls didn't really lose control until about the last 5 minutes. And Glasgow came back at them, but at that stage it was inconsequential. Munster lost control about the 50-minute mark. And Cardiff just got on this monster roll. The crowd got in behind them. There's been a bit of news around the state of the Blues, even expectations that the administrators might be called in over this last week. So there was a big crowd on hand. They got right into it. The songs, the hymns were running, and you could actually feel the Blues lift with the crowd. And they just launched the wettest of wet sails to come home, and they won that game very, very well. It was a well-deserved win.
Yeah. No, the difference for the Bulls is on the time and space. By the time that there was a fight back by Glasgow, what I said to my little South African WhatsApp group was, so now Bulls can make a lot of stupid mistakes for probably 2 or 3 minutes in a row, and it's still not going to be enough for Glasgow to come back. They ran out of time.
Yeah.
And then the Bulls bringing on a guy who never played pro rugby before, a 20-year-old, another guy that no one had heard of, made all those stupid mistakes in a row. So it was almost like the group was like, they were all for Pretoria, like, stop it, don't say that. And then, but you bring on Billy LaRue, and you're like, hey, but Billy's coming on, he's like a coach on the field. And then he boots it out. Well, Jake has said that he told him to, instead of taking the penalty kick at the end, which would have denied Glasgow the bonus point and leaves Glasgow in second place in the ERC, 1 point ahead of Bulls, when they could have taken a shot with the hooter, with the game dead,
to take away the losing bonus point.
And Jake's explanation was, it was on an angle, that's true, that it was a high potential for you hit a pole, you hit a post, and then Glasgow can actually come back, draw the game, and you end up losing. So he's taking the loss out of the equation, which was very conservative.
Wow. And that would have been interesting too, because if Glasgow don't get the bonus point, then they're on 11 wins. The Bulls are on 12 wins. So would the Bulls actually have gone? Matches one is the first tiebreak. So the Bulls would be in second.
Yeah, the way that lays out right now is you would actually back the Bulls to get the full 10 points for the remaining 2 fixtures, but you would not necessarily, because Leinster will bring most of their top team for the final match against Glasgow. They're not going to want to go into the Champions Cup cold against the Saints. That doesn't make any sense. And Leinster has always believed in reps. So they're just letting their players rest for about 3 weeks now, and then they bring them back in.
And the Bulls have got Cardiff and the Dragons to come. So
at home in Loftus.
That'll be interesting. So the table, so Leinster are well clear. They're on 67. Glasgow 59, Bulls 58. Then you got the Sharks 53. They're sort of a win away, but then they're 7 points clear of Cardiff, who are 5th on 46. Storm's 45, Scarlets 43. Benetton is 8th on 41, but then Munster's 41, Edinburgh's 39, Osprey's 38, Ulster 38 outside. So there's a bit to play for over those last 2 rounds.
Yeah, and like I said, on Friday night, it crucially lies out this kind of amazing ERC prophecy scheduling where you have teams battling for each other. The permutations will be wild. 2 points that I want to leave before we leave the South African Shield matches. Sharks had only 2 penalties in the game, and the Stormers were only penalized 5 times. And I want to point out that in the Stormers game, played in the Cape Town Stadium, the referee was so large and appeared to get larger during the match, so that I thought, I don't know what he ate at halftime, but he was struggling to keep up. He was never in the picture. So anytime there was like a TMO look or there was something on the big screen, you never could find the referee in the sequence. He was like 40 yards behind everything. But he loved scrums. And there was one point where there were 7 scrums in a row. He just reset them to get his breath back. I quite liked it. I thought it was fun. But there were moments where he was sitting at the scrum and his bum obscured the entire scrum. I mean, the cameraman cannot get around him. Welsh guy. He looked like a prop. Like, I thought, this is the first time I've seen a prop ref. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, righto. Fair.
But he only pinged. So he pinged the Stormers 5 times. I mean, that is wild in today's world
these days. Yeah, absolutely. It was round 15 of the Premiership in England. Sale have really made life difficult for Saracens. Now they remain third after the 25-7 win in Salford. Bath secured their home final with the big win over Newcastle. Leicester scored 28 unanswered second half points to push Harlequins out of reach, I think, now with that 40-7 win. And Northampton lift to 7th with the 48-31 win over Bristol, and it was a well-earned win. They looked really good, Northampton. I've written a note down here somewhere. It might even be in the show notes that Northampton rediscovered their European form in a Premiership game.
It's interesting, the form lines. So Sale is as hot as any club right now, and so you wouldn't want to face them in a semi-final. Saracens just kind of limping. Quinn's done. And then the Saints gathering steam. So it's actually very interesting, the form lines, if you look at them and wonder who's going to hit these final 2 or 3 rounds and playoffs with steam behind them. And Bath looks imperious and has all season long inside this competition. But Saints have had moments. And they're coming up to a moment, of course, where they played Leinster in a semi-final.
The problem they're going to have is that the Bristol in 4th are on 47 points. Northampton and Harlequins in 7th and 8th are both on 38. So they've got to make up 10 points, basically, over these next 3 games.
I don't think Saints will get there but just the idea of how well they're playing, setting up this clash against Leinster in Europe.
They could make things difficult for other teams going forward, certainly. So they've got... Northampton have got Exeter next week. Then it's Saracens and Gloucester to come. So there's 3 winnable games there for sure.
I like Michael Checker's Leicester Tigers and
they were good.
Alex Saunderson's Sale styles better than Bristol a lot. I think that Bristol's style is wearing on its players. The amount of rucks they have to get to, the amount of inside and outside channels they have to clean with that sort of high risk, high rep rugby is not a good look for knockouts. I take Tigers and take Sharks on that all day long. I even think they'll trouble the number 1 team if they clash with each other, because there's something about driving around the park with the ball in front of your forwards and a power game that suits. Even in this season where we are really trying to do attack, because of the nerves, because of all the stakes in knockout games, I still think it comes down to your ability to execute set pieces under pressure and minimize the times when your back 3 is so exposed. I mean, you saw the sadness of the Quins back 3 as the Tigers just ran through them because the sustained pressure.
We watched the second half of the Leicester Harlequins game together, sort of.
Yes,
we were hooked up via a call, which was actually really enjoyable, and we'll absolutely do that again before the year's out. I'm not quite sure, but Leicester were just there's a 15-minute period there in that second half where they scored 3 tries, and Quins had no idea what was going on. They just could not bounce back. Shelled one last try in the last 5 or 6 minutes as well, and I think I said to you that 12-7 at halftime, even 17-7, and there was a try disallowed there as well. I think I said to you that Quins are not playing like a team that's only they are lucky to be only down by 10, and 10 minutes later they were down by 20 odd, and that actually looked like a more fair reflection.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Like Quinn's almost the quintessential average side. Again, I'm teasing our averageness. I talked to a guy named Jan Lowe, South African guy who lives in London now, and he's a big Quins season ticket holder. And he talked about how the Quins design their entire world to basically be in the middle of the table, and then have every 4 or 5 years have a peak, and primarily in Europe make a long run, or then just squeeze into the playoffs and get into the finals. And it's their way of staying financially solvent. I know that we'll talk about that as this year goes on, because keeping solvent is really important in our sport. And the idea of not breaking the bank to get that other star and this star.
Yeah.
But putting a product on the field that's super exciting. And the Quins do that. I just think Checker and the Tigers have more of a winning style, even if it's somewhat boring to get there. Like the first 30 minutes is just squeezing you.
Welford Road was buzzing again, and that wasn't the case at the start of the year. I think there was still a bit of what about if it's as bad as last year? But Welford Road was just bouncing again. So they're in a good place. I think it was around 22 of the top 14 in France. Clermont took sixth place off Lyon in that 39-31 win. The big result here is last place Vannes with maybe the upset of the year, certainly in the top 14, beating Toulon 29-19. And we're looking at an image here of a pick and go try right in front of their fans at the end. It's such a great image. I love it. I will absolutely admit I've not seen any of that, but they are going straight back down to Pro D2. But man, it's a hell of a scalp to take on your way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. It's a wonderful scene to see the spectators, and no one reports their losing teams better than French. They seem to sort of have a almost death wish allegiance, and they don't desert you when you're losing.
No, they're good.
There were a couple of cracks showing in the top 14, which the Harry Index has taken note of. Toulon and Bordeaux are not showing the kind of fortitude that the index values.
So,
however, it's a very long season when you're playing in the top 14.
They're
and
still
so you're going to have a few hiccups.
They've still got another month to go. They've still got another four rounds. Sorry, not even a month. There'll be Champions Cup semi-finals and a final in there. So there's another 6 or 7 weeks before they hit playoffs yet. So it's a good way. La Rochelle have now, just going back to those scores, La Rochelle have suddenly won 2 on the trot, beating Bordeaux, as you mentioned there, 21-10. And there's a 4-way race for 6th place. So Clermont's on 48, Lyon's on 48, La Rochelle's on 48, Montpellier on 47. And only one of them is going to get in. So that's going to be the interesting little thing to watch there over that next 6 or 8 week period.
A lot of people that are not top 14 watchers criticize the top 14 clubs for platooning and planning. But the thing is, you always know it's going to come down to something like this. And so in the middle of the season, you have to put in a player that no one knows for 120 minutes here, 200 minutes there to get to the end. You just cannot afford to do a sprint. It's not possible in the top 14.
No. And they're not running squads of 50 to only use 35 players.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense at all. Round 16 of League One in Japan. Big wins to Toshiba and Kubota and Kobe. Panasonic beat Ricoh 27-21. Suntory have now opened up a gap in 6th spot over, I think Cannon Eagles are 7th now. But Suntory had a big win over the Fablitz on Sunday afternoon. So it's starting to resolve itself now. League One is what I'll say there. The top 4 are all well qualified. There's still another 2 rounds to go, I think. The top 4 are all qualified. I think that 5 and 6 could be sewn up this weekend as well. So
there was an opposite announcement in Japan and South Africa this week. In Japan, they're going to shrink your ability to field foreign players. And then Saru just came out and said it's going to expand from 2 to 5, 3 in the match day 23 of non-South African players. Almost like the 2 announcements were linked. And maybe, guys like Jake White and John Dobson were going, hey, it's been good to have some English players and some Scottish players running through. Maybe we'll pick up some people.
Yeah, it could help, particularly if the non-Japanese requirements change as is being suggested. So yes, we'll keep an eye on that. Major League Rugby to finish with, mate. It was round 11 there. Seattle Seawolves had a big win over Anthem RC on Wednesday. That was remember last week I said there's a couple of weird midweek games and I'm not quite sure which round they're in.
Yeah,
it's not pictured there, but it's not on that graphic there. But they won 60 points to 19. San Diego won the California Cup, which may or may not be called the California Cup. 38-33 36. The goddamn Houston Sabercats top Western Conference with that 21-point win over Old Glory.
It was a big comeback win for Utah, I believe, over Chicago.
Was
actually that was probably the result of the weekend was that win, and the way they came back, it was so I think Chicago had 31 at halftime, and then Utah just came storming back.
I think you may be right. I've gone back a week too far. Yes, I can tell you that. Yes, Chicago led 31-12 at halftime. Yeah, you're right. Now, I was this number of days old. I was this age old when I looked at my Dallas Jackals jersey that you sent over my way last year before, and then I thought, the Dallas Jackals aren't playing Major League Rugby this year. When did this happen? Have I just cottoned on to something that actually happened 18 months ago?
Yeah, it was announced before the season. There's three ways of doing this thing. Okay, so the MLR looked around the sporting world and they decided, who should we copy? Should we copy domestic U.S. professional leagues, or should we copy rugby writ large? And their conclusion was that rugby writ large is not doing a very good job of the business side. And one of the reasons they thought it was true is because lack of transparency until the end when books are closed, and then you find the Saracens issues or the Wasps or London Irish, and then you go, it's too late. Either you're penalizing someone like the Saracens or you're closing doors. And so what they decided to do was you don't get to play unless you show the proper metrics. And so the second thing that happens there is sometimes you do what they're doing with the Jackals, which is you're fine. You've got the infrastructure. You have obviously the proven interest, and you have the ability to have one. But you've got to attach it to a different fan base. It's a bit like Moana Pacifica. Until you can find the correct place to put something.
Find your home,
And so Dallas Jackals belong in the city of Dallas, not somewhere in between and Neverland, and attached to a 60-year-old club like the Dallas Harlequins that's won nationals 21 times. That's got a fan base that goes from 20 years old, 15 years old, all the way to 85. And you just have a short drive to 2 minutes to 15 minutes away from the stadium, and a stadium that's right size. So that's what's happening with the Jackals. It's not to be confused with what happened with Austin, the original LA club.
That's what I wondered,
where there was more of a penalty attached, almost like you're doing something wrong and we're shutting you down. This was just, let's revamp, reshift, and then keep going. And they keep doing this almost like an ink blot insurgency, where they try to put rugby somewhere, find the right place, and then keep shuffling. Not too worried about the catastrophe of discipline, because they think that the financial discipline is what's going to be over the long haul.
Will make the competition stronger. So did it only happen this year? And is that why the Western Conference only has 5 teams?
Yeah, it happened before the season started.
Okay.
But it's very cool that you're wearing what could be, a collector's item, because when they launch again, it's going to be different for sure. It's going to have a lot more Dallas and less, mid-cities vibe.
Is the expectation that they'll be back next season, or are they a few years away yet?
No, I don't know that. I don't think it would be next, but I don't think it would be few. I think it'd probably be in the one after this one that they relaunch.
So 26, 27 maybe. Right. There you go. As I say, I just realized I hadn't realized that we hadn't spoken about them. And I thought, what's going on? Oh, they're actually not there. That's why. That makes all perfect sense. Anything else to wrap up, mate? I think that's comprehensive.
Fantastic weekend. My biggest highlight of the weekend was loosehead prop Jan-Hendrik Wessels tracking back from about 50 meters to catch Glasgow winger, who was just a couple of steps away from scoring a try, smashing him legally into the back of his ribs, and then falling gracefully, cradling him like a baby, just changing his diapers and putting a dummy in his mouth and going, cradling and singing him to sleep. It was the easiest held up call I've ever seen, but also the most astounding play. I mean, I think even Glasgow kind of almost applauded that. Like, wow.
It was a good tackle. It was a really, really good tackle. No doubt about it. That then is the Weekend Post-Mortem behind us. Harry and I remain on the socials in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones and at BMC Sport. You can tell us what you think by finding and following the 8-9 Combo on Twitter, on YouTube, on Blue Sky as well. You can have your say right here on the 8-9 Combo YouTube channel, and you can leave a comment if you're listening to us on Spotify as well. We'd love to hear from you over there. And please, wherever you are consuming us, share as far and wide as you can. Leave us a rating or review wherever you can as well. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed in a rugby podcast. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones, and we will be back in your ears in just a few days' time for another great rugby chat.
Show us you love us and subscribe to us. Come play with us. How close are we to 5,000? Close?
Awfully close. Awfully close.